Hi everyone, this is Lauren coming at you from the Break Zone with another deck tech video. This one going over the Earth Lightning deck that's based around Final Fantasy XIV, Scions of the Seventh Dawn, pre-constructed deck, and a bunch of upgrade that was piloted by Irving Diaz to a top 4 finish at the Indianapolis Crystal Cup. So the name of the deck is that of Scions. And if you have ever met Irving, he's a great guy. We got to spend some time over during the Indianapolis Crystal Cup. He definitely doesn't have a dad bod. The guy works out, okay? So if you play, he's a really nice guy, real friendly. But definitely, I wouldn't be one to mess with him. Go ahead, say hi to him, and have a good time. So this deck, as I mentioned earlier, is based around the Sign of the Seventh Dawn interactions from the pre-constructed deck from Opus 5, as well as upgrades from different opuses. And Opus 6 definitely gave it some huge upgrades. We're talking about the Earth Ishtola, as well as Krile to kind of go full circle on getting enough Scions of the Seventh Dawns out there, backups including forwards, in order to get all of those bonus abilities to go off. And let's go over some of the cards that put this deck together, that Irving put together in order to get that top 4 finish. Alright, first off is Illua. If you're playing Lightning, it's a card to definitely consider. Such a great card. 3-drop 6k haste. I mean, can't say enough about her. She can definitely steal games. If you play against mono ice, they're gonna have a bit of a hard time to take her out. If they try to go in and sneak in a couple points of damage here and there, with their smaller forwards, they're not gonna be able to do so with Illua. And if they try to do anything to kind of get her out of the way, like normally they would play a summon, like we're talking about Opus 5 Mateus. If Vikings, Leela Vikings decks were trying to get through Illua, they might target her with, let's say, a Leviathan, Cloud of Darkness, or even a Nidhogg, for example. And Illua is going to be able to cancel out the first ability, that the summoner ability that targets her that turn. That's going to get you a lot of value. On top of the fact that her special is so amazing, being able to give to activate all your forwards in case they got dulled down on your attack, and kind of try to go for lethal, and after that, hey, you know what, surprise, I'm going to be able to activate on my forwards, also give them haste, and maybe be able to block on the backswing. Alright, next up we've got Thancred, who seems okay normally, you know, 4-drop 8k, but guess what? You have so many job of Sign of 7th Dawn in this deck that he's usually going to come out as a 4-drop 9k. And the secondary ability to receive less damage while dull and to reduce it by 2000 is very good in case your opponent is, for example, using Dadaluma triggers in order to try to take things out. If Thancred is dull, then he's going to be taking a whole lot less damage. Also, a lot of other things that people try to do normally is, let's say, they try to use Sid Reigns for 4000 damage to a dull forward, or maybe Glacial Bolas to deal 7000 damage to a dull forward. And Thancred is going to be able to reduce that, which might set them back quite a bit, or just keep him out of being able to be broken by those abilities and summons. Okay, next up we've got Ida, who is one of the key parts of this deck. Her, along with Papalymo and all those Scion of the 7th Dawn forwards and backups as well, really put this deck together. And we're talking about the fact that she gets quite large. I mean, it just says Scion of the 7th Dawn characters for each of them other than herself. She's going to get larger. So it wouldn't be unusual to see her as a 2-drop 8k, if not higher. 6k would be easy. 8k and up is not unusual. And when she attacks, she's able to deal damage equal to half of her power rounded down. But guess what? If you play her along with Papalymo, Papalymo is going to be able to give her a 2000 damage boost to her ability, which can be very relevant. So if you get Ida to 10k and you have Papalymo out and she attacks, you're going to be able to take out 7000 power forwards on the opposing field by just declaring your attack with Ida. So normally one of the plays that you do is you get Papalymo, and Papalymo is an EX burst, by the way, and after that you get into your Ida, and if you have your Alisaie, you're going to be able to get 2 haste forwards pretty darn quickly. Alright, next up we've got Urianger, who's been great since people started using him actually during Opus 5. Urianger Mill, all those other iterations. In this case, the only monster that you have in your deck is Dragon. But with so many Sign of the 7th Dawn forwards, you should be able to get 2 out, including himself. Even if they take out one of them before his ability resolves when he enters the field, there's a very high chance that you have more than 1, 2 if not more than that on the field already, and you should be able to get your Dragon back and just get so much value out of playing out your Dragon abilities to break forwards as well as monsters. Y'shtola, another Sign of the 7th Dawn. I think you can kind of see the recurring theme here. So 4-drop AK, that's pretty cool, and can't be broken by opposing summon or abilities that don't deal damage. So if your opponent is trying to go in with Opus 5 Mateus and a smaller forward, Y'shtola is going to have none of that. And if you have 3 or more Sign of the 7th Dawn that doesn't say forward, that's just characters, she's going to have Brave, so guess what? She is quite relevant. And on top of that, when she attacks, you can deal, if you control 5 or more job Signs of the 7th Dawn, other than herself, being able to deal 8,000 damage, Jesus, that is a whole lot. Being able to take out forwards with Ida, Dragon, and Y'shtola, you just really put the screws on your opponent. And we're talking about like a deck that also has Wall and Dadaluma. This is just insane. Having 5 or more job Signs of the 7th Dawn other than Y'shtola can be a little bit difficult, but you have a decent amount of backups and a decent amount of forwards that fit that category, and you should be able to pull that off if you play correctly. Next up, we've got Dadaluma, who is a staple in Earth, and you know, I'm not surprised to see him here. 2 copies of him is pretty good, and I guess, you know, maybe there was enough room to put more, or maybe 2 was just enough. You're playing Earth, you're more likely than not, you're going to be playing Wall. Wall is so huge, especially when you have a bunch of other forwards. If you're not playing the, what's it called, the Veil 4 or monster packages where Earth is only usually used for Shantotto. If your main course of action is to play forwards and start swinging, Wall should be considered if you're playing Earth. And here it is, and I'm not surprised. Last but not least, for forwards, we've got Amon. Haven't seen Amon as much lately, but in this deck, you've got Illua as well as Ramuh to give Amon haste, and being able to play Amon and then give him haste, you're going to be able to dole 2 forwards in 1 turn, and with Ramuh being able to dole another forward, if you play Amon along with Ramuh to dole a forward, as well as use the second, having the second choice of giving Amon haste, that's 3 dole forwards in 1 turn, which can be quite backbreaking. Alright, next up we've got the monsters. As I mentioned earlier, we've got Dragon. And Dragon, being able to be recurred with Urianger is very relevant. Being able to break opposing layaks or just forwards of cost 4 or less can be very good, especially when you get it back again and again. Okay, going over some of the backups. Minfilia, 4-drop EX burst, being able to search out job Scion of the 7th Dawn forward can be very good. So if you play Minfilia and let's say you get a Papalymo, guess what? You're technically getting Minfilia to get Papalymo to get an Ida, and that can really just snowball things out of control pretty quickly. On top of the fact that her secondary ability isn't that hard to trigger for you because, well, you have a whole lot of job Sign of the 7th Dawn forwards and backups, such as Alisaie, who's another key part of this deck. Being able to give all of your job Scion of the 7th Dawn forwards haste is just crazy. on top of the fact that you're able to reduce the cost of Alphinaud by 1, you're going to turn Alphinaud over here into, instead of a 2-drop backup, into a 1-drop backup. Goodness. And if you have Alisaie, then you play Alphinaud afterwards. Guess what? You're going to be able to dole Alisaie for lightning CP to use Alphinaud's ability afterwards. And if you have a job sign on the 7th Dawn, you're going to be able to deal 2,000 damage. So you add that on top of Ishtola's ability to deal damage, or Ida's, and you're taking out some pretty darn big forwards. Next up, we've got Krile. So her ability's not that great. Water hasn't been as relevant lately, especially things that return your forwards to your hand. I mean, yes, there is Veil for control still, so that's definitely one of the options. It does come at a cost, but the main reason you play this card, it's because it's a 2-drop backup that is job Scion on the 7th Dawn. So as I mentioned earlier, Earth Y'shtola as well as Krile really pushed this deck to the next level when we came into Opus 6. Okay, next up we've got Shantotto. You're playing Earth. There's a fairly high chance that you're playing Shantotto in case your opponent tries to pull some shenanigans. Next up we've got Miner as a 2-of. I think that's a pretty good number. I've seen 3 as well, which is great. But with 2 you can do the whole recursion engine of, if you have a Miner in play, and you draw into your other Miner you have in your hand, you can go ahead, crack your Miner to get a forward back into your hand, and after that play the next Miner to get your Miner from your break zone back to your hand again, and just keep chaining it back and back and back. And if you're able to get Urianger to break, for example, and after that you have a 2 job sign on the 7th Dawn, what was it, forwards I think? Yes, forwards in play that are going to stick around. Guess what? With Miner, you're going to be able to keep recurring your dragons, which can be quite disgusting actually. That's just a scary thought. Alright, last but not least, for the backups, we've got Louisoix, who is able to get you your Alisaie Alphinaud, or whichever one you need at the time, and both of them are quite relevant. Definitely Alisaie. If you don't have Alisaie on the field, go ahead and search it out with your Louisoix. One of the key parts of this deck, and being able to technically count as if you had 5 copies of Alisaie in your deck can be very good. Okay, let's go over some of the summons. You're playing Earth. There's a high chance you're playing Hecatoncheir, especially if you're playing forwards, just like the deck is doing. And keep in mind that this, with the source of the damage when you use this Hecatoncheir, the summon, is a forward dealing damage to another forward. So that actually gets around the Opus 5 Y'shtola, even though she could break herself to be cheeky in order to cancel the Hecatoncheir in response. And last but not least, we got Ramuh, who was really good in the Opus 6 pre-release as well as the sealed event, and more of the same here. All those options are great. Being able to choose 2 of them are great. As I mentioned earlier, if you play, it's going to cost you a lot though. I mean, we're talking about 7 CP. If you play Amon first in your turn, you're going to be able to dole 1 forward, and then if you play Ramuh afterwards, to choose a different forward of cost 4 or less that your opponent controls to dole it. You can still choose a second action to give 1 lightning forward haste, giving haste to Amon, being able to dole a 3rd forward, and sometimes doling through 3 of your opponent's forwards can be enough to swing in for the win. So hopefully you like this deck. It's very interesting. It was great to watch Irving play the match out. Great guy, great player. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to add them down below. Thanks again to our sponsors, MagicTechGames.com, that carry products from Final Fantasy, the trading card game from Opus 5 through 6. You're able to buy or trade in any of those cards, and if you want to, you can even trade them in to get some of that sealed Opus, a couple of sealed Opus 6 boxes if you want to. I think this set really put some archetypes up in the forefront, and Final Fantasy 14 Scions of the 7th Dawn is definitely one of the archetypes that came out on top when Opus 6 was released. So hopefully you enjoyed this this video, and if you do, feel free to subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.